rebel force has penetrated the shield and landed on Andor.
This is where the fun begins.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
This is Rebel Force Radio.
Your source for the Force.
Star Wars news and commentary.
With Jason Swank and Jimmy Mack.
I've seen Star Wars 500 times.
Star Wars #1!
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe. I suggest we use it.
Now it's time for Rebel Force Radio.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Hey, welcome back. Rebel Force Radio. Very special one for you this week. As we kick off the holiday season officially here, Thanksgiving week in the United States. But that's not why it's special. It's special because, as is tradition with our Thanksgiving episodes, we like to give back. We like to give thanks to our listeners, and in particular, our Patreon supporters, by doing a little live stream just for them. That's right. So we are streaming live just to our Patreon supporters, and the whole agenda this week, the whole rundown, the whole focus of the show is going to be about what is on their minds, not just what's on our minds. So we're going to be taking lots of calls from our Patreon supporters. Really looking forward to it. As I said, happy Thanksgiving to all of those who celebrate, and it is the kickoff to the holiday season, and boy, oh boy, we're now counting down the days to Skeleton Crew. We've got a little Skeleton Crew update coming on later in the program, and who knows what's going to happen. I heard tell of a good time that was had in the Chicago area at a RFR meetup. Maybe we'll get some details about that coming up later. So if you're new to the program, and introductions may be in order, my name is Jason, and with me, as always, my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Star Wars fans. High ground. Yeah, I have to pick up where we left off last week with High Ground. That was pretty fun. And a lot of people have been suggesting things like, oh, this could be the new Chut-Chut. We just yell high ground at each other. I don't know. Chut-Chut is it's got a certain whimsy to it, a certain charm. But high ground. High ground, I don't know. I think that would...
It doesn't sound like
result
a greeting to me.
No, not necessarily. But in the way they were using it in the Robot Chicken bit with Seth Green as Ben Kenobi yelling high ground randomly, it sort of did kind of take it built a certain appeal maybe as a Star Wars greeting that maybe only the real hardcores, like the RFR Patreon audience, those are the ones who want to be using high ground. So let's just make that a Patreon thing.
Sort of like a secret handshake.
Yeah. Or while you're shaking someone's hand, you can even just test the water and be like, high ground. If you're not sure, high ground. And then they will respond in kind. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, for now, we'll stick with the old classic.
Chut-chut.
There we go. The chut-chut. It's a good greeting, even though we did find out that technically that's not what it is, but whatever.
Yeah, what does it mean? What does it...
RFR canon says it's
mean?
what's up. What's up?
Right,
That's what it is. That's the Star Wars what's up.
Yeah, well, that's how we interpret the scene. We're not here to have some people hold our hands and walk us through it. It's just that's how we interpret it.
Right.
That's our analysis, our breakdown of it all is determined chut-chut is a greeting.
Right. I mean, I don't know how you watch that scene and not interpret it that way.
Yeah,
chut,
he
chut,
just rolls
Watto.
up on him and says chut-chut, Watto.
Yeah.
He hasn't seen the flying lizard bird thing for what? A decade?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's just going to roll, what, is he continuing some conversation he was having with Watto 10 years ago? No, he's saying hello to the rodent bird or whatever Watto is.
Now I'm trying to remember that scene. Does Anakin give Watto any context clues for how Watto is then so easily able to remember? Annie, little Annie. Does he still looks the same, or does he ask about his mother first?
No, it's nothing like that. It's not on a personal level. He was a slave that Watto owned. And when Anakin was able to fix whatever stupid little device Watto was messing with, and he fixed it in record time. When Watto received it and it was functioning again, he instantly thought to himself, wow, the only person I've ever known was that kid slave I owned 10 years ago. He was the only person I ever knew who could fix something just so rapid fire. And so as soon as he saw
It's
that,
like a Rubik's Cube. You know, when you see those people do the Rubik's Cube real fast, it was like that. Oh, yeah. I've seen that before.
one of the funnest voices to do in Star Wars 2. Eddie.
It's a great one. It's a great starter voice. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I rolled up on the actor who voiced Watto.
Blessed, right? Brian Blessed?
No. He was Boss Nass.
That's right.
Boy, and the actor, his name is not coming to me right now, which is sad and pathetic because I have a photo of his character with the man's signature on my wall right now.
Well, one of the benefits of doing a live stream is that we've got the chat. Yeah. Someone's going to give us that, that's going to be our research in the chat. By the way, speaking of the fact that this is a live stream, we're going to be taking calls. We're joined by our good pal, the official RFR program observer and call screener, Tyler Page. That's not Tyler's card. There's Tyler's card right there.
Tyler is. I was still talking about Watto, but I guess we're going to introduce Tyler now.
Oh, you had more Watto riff?
Well, I was saying I met the actor, and I said, do you have a lot of people approaching you doing the Watto voice? And he just stared at me, and he goes, all right, let's hear it. Eddie. Little Eddie, yeah.
So
yeah,
he inferred from your question that the next thing was going to be you doing it, regardless of how he answered.
Right. I was a major league pitcher going into the complete full windup, and he saw it, and he knew the pitch was coming. Yeah, let me hear it.
Andy Seacombe, by the way. Andy
Seacombe. Yeah. That's Watto. That's Mr. Watto. So, and he kind of gave me a nod of approval. He thought it was all right.
Yeah?
Yeah. So it was fun to meet him. Why, hello, Tyler Page.
Look at him there.
Tyler, how are you, my friend? Of course, Tyler was part of our crew at the Galloping Ghost, the RFR Galloping Ghost hangout that occurred this past weekend. And we had people coming in from Wisconsin, Indianapolis, Detroit, Michigan, and of course, our guest of honor from Phoenix, Eric from Phoenix. So it was a great time. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I got a nice little one-on-one time Friday with Eric. Had a nice little dinner. So.
Oh, you guys had a little intimate dinner, did you?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Romantic dinner.
What'd you do? Did you float some fruit over to his plate from yours?
Yeah. Yeah. And I cut it right in front.
He's like, Jimmy Mack would be very grumpy. He saw that.
I love it. But it was a really excellent weekend, and it was wonderful. John Marcoux showed up. Jedi Yogi John Marcoux was hanging out, and
Billy Mack, I heard, was there.
Billy was there. We hung out till about 3 a.m. So,
not as a ghost, right? Or does a ghost stay up?
No, we started to tour the bars of Ogden Avenue at that
okay.
point. And as you can imagine, nothing good happens after 2 a.m. on the street of Ogden Avenue there. But whatever. We had a blast. It was wonderful. And so
Eric is Eric is confirming here that no fruit was shared. Oh, look at the little shot glass there.
Yeah, I got a little Star Wars shot glass here. And since, we are kicking off a holiday weekend, I figure I'll get it going right now in a proper fashion. So
cheers.
Bottoms up, baby.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we decided to do a live
Tyler with his water. Water rushes you,
he's
man.
Still feeling it. He's still feeling it from the other night. But we decided to do this live call-in show because it's kind of something we do almost every year here on RFR, where we want to feature listener calls. And I'm taking it very seriously this year because I didn't prepare anything for the show.
Guys, you have no idea how rare this is. All day, I was waiting for the text from Mac to say, I know we're taking calls, but I did put together a rundown just in case.
No rundown, no agendas. Shocking. I'm counting on the RFR Patreon audience to bring the topics of conversation to us, as opposed to the other way around. So we're doing that as our way of saying thanks to you. Joseph Tavano said on the RFR Patreon page that this is quietly one of our best traditions when we feature listener call-ins at Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So we're counting on you guys. I didn't prepare anything for this show. So it could be just 2 hours of nonsensical riffing between me and Swank. And some of you, I think, want that. But we need you to call in 708-866-1RFR. That's 1737. So please, let's fill up the switchboard. We want to talk about all topics having to do with Star Wars. Skeleton Crew debuting next week. We have films in the pipeline. Hopefully the pipeline doesn't get clogged as it has in the past.
Man, oh man.
Of course, comics, novels, I mean, everything, collecting, whatever you guys want to talk about. Let's talk.
Tyler, got to let you go. I'm looking at the call-in queue. It is building up. You got to go to work, man.
All right.
Get to work.
Tyler's going to go to work and screen some of these calls. There's so much going on. There were a couple of things that caught my eye, Jim, before we started the show. One was that Skeleton Crew is getting an early release date. I don't know if you happen to see this, but according to Forbes, it's going to debut on Monday, December 2nd. Also, there's going to be a theatrical release.
That's right. And me and Tyler will be there at the Chicago screening on Monday. So we'll see Skeleton Crew an hour before everyone else. Whoop-de-doo.
A full hour?
Why are they moving it to Monday? Where's the roadblock next week on Tuesday? Why do they have to be inconsistent like this?
I have a theory about the Monday. I think there's a lot of kids that are off school still on Monday for the Thanksgiving break. I think Monday is still kind of considered part of the holiday weekend a little bit. And they thought, hey, we got to get into the act. I mean, why not sit around with the family and watch this show? I think this show is really going to target families in a way that we probably haven't seen and from anything Star Wars in a while.
I could see that.
Could be wrong, but I was glad to hear that you say that you and Tyler got tickets because it sold out fast. 25 different locations across the country. And almost all of them are sold out. So go to StarWars.com if you're interested. But chances are, by the time you hear our voices here outside of the live stream, you will be shut out. So, Jim, it starts at 7 p.m. Chicago time? Okay.
7 p.m. Central in Chicago. And then the show itself will debut on Disney Plus at 8 p.m. Central that night. So I'll watch it in the theater, come home and watch it again. And then we have to discuss, though, because this could shake up our week a little bit.
It could.
I'm going to just ask you, might as well, let's just have a show meeting right now. Next week.
Uh-huh.
Would you be cool with doing the first after show on Tuesday?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah,
let's get that out of the way Tuesday.
Right.
And then the after shows will be on Wednesday for the next 2 weeks after that. Then the after show will be on Thursday for the next 2 weeks after that. And then we'll go back to Wednesday for the next 2 weeks after that. So you're going to have to follow along with us. After show 1 will be Tuesday the 3rd. Then after shows 2 and 3, which will be reviewing episodes 3 and 4. If you guys need a spreadsheet or something to follow along with this.
I do. I also need someone in the chat to let Forbes know that RFR is also moving our after shows up by a day. So please let Forbes know that, and maybe they can make that public for everybody. It's big news.
Forget Forbes. Go right to the New York Times on this news because it's hot. Stop the presses. So after show number 1, Tuesday the 3rd. The next 2 Wednesdays will be after show 2 and 3. The next 2 Thursdays will be after shows 4 and 5. And then the next 2 Wednesdays will be after shows 6 and 7. And it's only 7 after shows because, of course, there's the double feature debut next Monday.
Yeah.
All right. Did everybody write all this down? Okay. Because I keep track of it all on an Etch-a-Sketch. So that could be troubling.
Just shake it up. Just shake it up when you get mad. Change it all. Here's something else. We'll throw this out for the good of the order here as the calls start to take shape here. I heard there's a scooper out there, this Daniel Richtman. And Daniel is saying, Jim, that he's hearing that Ahsoka Season 2 is being written as if there will be no Season 3. So it looks like most likely a 2 seasons and done scenario for Ahsoka. And some of this might be just for the fact that Dave Filoni doesn't want to get caught in an acolyte type situation where they lay a bunch of track and Disney says, nope, sorry, not doing
You're
it.
done, son.
Yeah.
You're done, son.
Yeah.
We know how much you like the colorful headed girl with the head tails and semi-horns. She kind of has horns. She has little
horns.
Outcroppings on top of her head. I don't know if she likes us to call them horns, but whatever. But yeah, I always assumed that the Ahsoka series would be 2 seasons after season 1 was left so open-ended. But as you can see, that the shift is really pushing Star Wars away from streaming and back into the theaters.
Yeah.
I think right now the studio might be a little spread too thin, just a bit. And the streaming series and all of the different projects they have in the pipeline happening apparently simultaneously to see which one can actually get its head above water and onto movie.
Oh, it's a race right now. It seems like that's the strategy. Yeah. Which is you're going to set these people up into teams and in creative teams, and the first to the blackboard with the right answer, which the right answer is a viable Star Wars film feature, wins. And what do you win? You get to be the first one after Favreau to bring Star Wars back to the big screen. Another thing that Richtman said, this is probably
it must be nightmarish to be a concept artist working on Star Wars, knowing that the odds are probably 80% that what you're toiling over will never see the light of day. Think about it.
That's pretty disheartening. I mean, that for
it is. How much concept art and things were created for the Trevorrow episode 9 that never saw the light of day.
Quite a bit.
Outside of maybe some recreations at the Disney parks.
Well, I think some of that did end up in the art of book. Some of that stuff.
Yes, yeah, some of it did.
But certainly not. I'm sure it was a fraction of the work that was actually done. This also probably should come as no surprise. But again, according to Richtman, that they're waiting on Mando and Grogu to wrap up shooting before they can start shooting the Ahsoka series. So likely spring, they're saying, or April of 2025 for that to even get
I have heard the cameras. April too from another somewhere.
Yeah.
I've heard April. So that's probably right on. Yeah, that seems pretty accurate.
All right. Well, let's see who we got first. Looks like we got Indianapolis. Joey from Indianapolis. Hey, Joey. You're on with Rebel Force Radio.
Jason and Jimmy, it's such an honor to be on with you guys. Happy holidays. I've been listening for about 8 years now, and you guys actually met my dad at ICCC in 2023, I believe. I got a selfie from him, and it was super, super cool to see that. So glad to be on with you guys.
But you weren't with him, right? You weren't with him.
Correct. No, I was not. I was at the Indy 500 because the ICCC was happening in May, and so I was up at the 500, and he was down there and got the picture from him, and was just super stoked and super jealous that he was hanging with you guys. So yeah, it's just an honor to be here.
Well, it's great to have you with us.
I'll tell you what, you and your dad, you share Star Wars fandom with each other, and your dad is such a fan that he attends conventions and things like that.
Yeah, no, you've actually, I mean, Jimmy, I know that you've been on so many shows. You've actually been on the show that me and him originally started together because we were such a fan of RFR. And
what show?
Yeah,
what show is that?
You did him a favor. That's Rule the Galaxy. We started as father and son, right?
Oh,
so
you
we
guys
did,
are great.
we Rule the Galaxy as father and Yeah. So because of what I do, and I got 2 little ones, I hopped off, and he still runs it with a bunch of indie crew down here. And so, yeah, they've been down at ICCC the past couple of years, and got to meet up with you. So was awesome. But hey, just I know how the show works, so I don't want to take up too much of you guys' time. I just appreciate it. I had 2 things. One, with the holidays rolling in, I know you guys have had to have talked about it before. I'm sure I've heard, because like I said, since like 2016, 2017, I've been a loyal listener every week. But I grew up on Christmas in the Stars, the Star Wars Christmas album. And I can't remember. I just was curious, your guys' thoughts, if that was something that was a regular listening for you guys at this time of the year. And if it was just, had the same feelings as me about it, it was just something that's kind of in the regular rotation with all the rest of the holiday music that I throw on.
That is something that I had no knowledge of Christmas in the Stars until, wow, where are these notifications coming from?
What the holy smokes?
Oh, sorry about that, guys.
The Star Trek communicator interrupting the Star Wars podcast.
The irony.
At ear-splitting levels. I mean, just like, I need some fresh eardrum after
disturb.
that.
I got it on Do Not Disturb, so hopefully that... Did you say you were poisoned? Poisoned. My
Poisoned
ears,
by the sounds of Star Trek. We're talking about the Star Wars Christmas album. And if we can go without any phasers or transporter beams interrupting us, I'd be happy.
To a minimum there, Hutch. So, all right. This album I had no clue about until long after it was out. I mean, I think it was probably the early 2000s before I even knew this was a thing. So, I can't relate. But it's awesome that you had that as a holiday tradition. All I had was hoping someday I'd get a dirty old VHS of the holiday special. That was my Christmas.
Dirty one, a dirty
holiday.
VHS.
Yeah. Then once I got one, I was like, God, I've been waiting all these years for this. So it was a little bit of a letdown. But this is about Christmas in the Stars.
Like Jimmy's comment last week about the adult film. It's more of an adult film.
Yeah. That's right. It's still inappropriate. But I'll tell you what, Christmas in the Stars, I was aware of it when it was released and stuff. But I just looked at it as a lot of hokey junk. It didn't appeal to me as a kid Star Wars fan. When it started to gain appeal for me, it wasn't until I was an adult and Rhino Records re-released it as a CD. And it was the first time it was ever released as a CD. It had been out of print for a while up to that point. And when I heard that, I kind of dug it in a weird way. What can you get a Wookiee for Christmas when he already owns a comb? I mean, this is kind of borderline genius stuff here, I discovered. And, and the way they would mix in R2-D2 beeps and boops with Christmas music. And, of course, it is the recording debut of one Mr. John Bon Jovi, who sings on a track on this album. I think he sings on R2D2, We Wish You a Merry Christmas. And he's the lead, and he's still a kid at this time. But he had a family member who was working at the studio where this was recorded. And he was recruited because he was trying to kick off his singing career. And this was his, quote, big break. But and he goes by his real name, too. The real spelling of his last name, Bon Jovi, the Italian Bon Jovi, not the way they sort of twisted it around and
it's like it's spelled like Bon Jovi, Bionjovi or something like that.
Right. G.
You
know, Bon
Jovi with a G.
Yeah, right. Bon Jovi with a G. That's a good way to put it. And so it really grew on me. Then when we were doing the Force Cast, I did a spin-off show, which we called Microcasts, and they were called the Galaxy of Music. So I would do these big, extravagant Christmas things. And, of course, I would include an ample helping of the tracks from the Christmas in the Stars. And I had a lot of fun putting those shows together. I actually was, like, recruiting musicians to compose pieces specifically for those podcasts and things like that. And you could probably still find them out there. You know what? You could probably find them on our YouTube channel, actually. And those were a lot of fun to put together. And just the fond memory I have of that is we would always drive downstate Illinois to see some in-laws and cousins every Christmas with my kids in the car. And we would always listen to Christmas in the Stars or the Galaxy of Music episodes I did dedicated to Christmas music. And I just remember my kids really, really digging it in the 2000s, you know. And that was, those are the fondest memories I have of it. I reached out to Anthony Daniels one time. Come on, Swank, you're killing me here.
I know, I've got it on Do Not Disturb.
Me. You know what? Why don't you just take it and just stomp on it with your foot?
All right,
let's just put us out of our misery.
This is the first live stream we've done with this new phone, so I had the other one set up right. Keep going.
So, all right. So I was saying, I reached out to Anthony Daniels, C-3PO himself, around Christmas season one year, and for as much as Anthony's reputation is you know, sometimes surly or whatever he is, he's always been really generous with us here at RFR for some reason. He seems like he likes us. And he remembers us all the time, too. This I know. And I reached out to him. I said, hey, you want to talk about Christmas in the Stars? He said, no one has ever interviewed me about that album. And I said, oh, my God, let's fix that. So I think that's worthy of a holiday re-release, probably on our YouTube channel or website or wherever. We'll let you know when we blast it out there, but it'll be soon. And I'll replay that interview I did with Anthony Daniels where he talks about Christmas in the Stars.
That's just for you, Joey. Just for you and your dad.
Man. Just for you.
That would be phenomenal because I had such fond memories of being a kid where I was just like, it's something about thinking about, wow, in a galaxy far, far away, they're still celebrating Christmas out there just like me. And no, so that would be fantastic, Jimmy, if you could set that up, send that out again.
So here's one thing I want to mention. I want to connect some dots here about this album. So most of the music and the lyrics were written by Maury Yeston, who is the composer of Broadway musicals like Titanic, Grand Hotel, 9. And when we had our RFR event in where were we? Where were we this past May?
Bristol, Connecticut.
In Bristol, Connecticut, yeah. And we had Robert Lopez, the one half of the writing duo of Frozen and also co-wrote Book of Mormon. He's an EGOT. He revealed to us something that I'd never heard, which is that Maury Yeston had written or had started writing a musical adaptation of Star Wars. And that the big I Want Hero song ended up being the melody of it ended up being in Titanic. So now it's like all coming together. He's the guy that wrote Christmas in the Stars. I wonder if some of those melodies were from his treatment, his idea for a Star Wars musical adaptation.
Wow. Interesting. Very interesting. I had no idea about that little tidbit there.
One more thing before I get off. I told Tyler this was going one direction in terms of who I want to throw out there for you guys, but with the holidays, I wanted to switch it. Nothing too crazy, but I wanted to know, I'm a huge Christmas Vacation fan. I watch it all the time this time of year. So I want to know from both of you guys, which Star Wars character would be your Clark Griswold and which would be your Cousin Eddie?
Clark Griswold and the Cousin Eddie. Well,
let's consider this for a second.
Boy, oh boy. So you're talking about who's my Star Wars equivalent of Clark and my Star Wars equivalent of Cousin Eddie?
If a Christmas Vacation comedy was happening in a galaxy far, far away, who would play Clark? Which character would be Clark and which would be Cousin Eddie?
Okay. Well, I have to say, the everyman, the hero, is for me is always going to be Luke Skywalker. He's the guy that always wants everything to go right, and so he's my Clark. Now, who is the Cousin Eddie to? Who shows up just to spoil things? Man, is there a Cousin Eddie in the Star Wars universe?
Right, while you think about that, I'll tell you who my Clark is.
You've got him already? Or you got a Clark? Okay.
Well, I think I got a Clark. My Clark would be Jango Fett. Because he's actually a family man. He's got Boba. And, Boba could be sort of a foil to Jango's comedic, and obviously he was trying to do the right thing, but he was kind of clumsy, Jango. He bumps his head on that when he's going into the Slave One.
Yeah,
that
so
could be a
the
very
clumsy
Clark
thing, yeah.
Griswold-like moment, and all that. He leaves his armor just out in the open so Obi-Wan could see it. That's pulling a Griswold, if you ask me.
Pulling a Griswold.
Yeah. Got little Boba there. Dad, Tonwee's here. It's like, we'll bring her in. We're about ready to sit down for this nice, beautiful bird. And he gets ready to carve it, and the bird just sort of inflates, and everyone deflates.
Well, I have to say, I think Eric from Phoenix, he said it better than I could. Hondo Ohnaka is Cousin Eddie. That's the guy that shows up, thinks that everybody loves him. Everybody's irritated as hell, except for the father-in-law, of course. Father-in-law can't get enough of Hondo. So I like it. That's a good question, yeah. So I think I'm going to steal Eric's answer. I think Hondo is sort of the master of inappropriateness.
I just think instead of Cousin Eddie pulling up in the Winnebago and parking in front of the house, it would just be like some real sloppy Jawa in a sandcrawler. He comes up there, he comes out, rubs his belly, dumps the septic tank into the sewer and out of the sandcrawler. So to me, it would just be like some slacker, bloated Jawa in a sandcrawler. That's who my cousin... And then, Cousin Eddie always comes with the family, so naturally the Jawa would have many other Jawas in tow. And all of those Jawas were just as sloppy as the Cousin Eddie Jawa. So
think about that.
More in terms of Jawas.
Jawas. All right. A couple of good answers. Well, Joey, thanks for that. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, fellas. Happy holidays. Thanks so much. I'll be listening throughout. May the force be with you.
Hey, same to you, buddy. Thank you very much.
Great guy he is.
The Cousin Eddie of the Star Wars. Yeah, the Jawas. They are the ants at the picnic. You don't want them to show up. That's for sure.
No. And who wants a Jawa to show up?
Right. Yeah.
Nobody. It's a Cousin Eddie.
We welcome a new celebrity to our bouquet of giant balloons, Grogu, also known Baby Yoda.
So cute. We love Baby Yoda. Look at him, he's so cute.
Baby Yoda, I love you.
Love you, Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda.
Oh, gobble, gobble.
Rebel Force Radio.
All right. Well, it wouldn't be a live show if we didn't have this guy dropping by. You know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Blake.
It's time for Blake's Take.
Let me just say, I don't like calling him just Blake because there are other Blakes that call in. This is Kid Blake. Now, I'm only saying that.
Yeah.
Oh, good. His voice hasn't completely changed. Thank God. He's still Kid Blake. All right. Because I know Kid Blake's getting a little older. Kid Blake has high school in the crosshairs right now.
All right, Tyler, did you hear that? It's Kid Blake. All right?
All right.
Tyler.
What does Tyler have to? Is Tyler like?
He's got to put it in the notes.
Yeah, Tyler, what are you doing, man? So there, Kid Blake.
All right, Kid Blake. Happy holidays, buddy.
Oh my gosh, I can't speak. Happy holidays to you guys too.
All right.
It's always great to hear from you.
You came prepared, like you have a topic from what I see.
Yeah, I have something I want to talk about. I know you guys were just talking to Joey. He just called in.
Mm-hmm.
You guys were talking to him. He asked you guys what your guys' Clark Griswold and Cousin Eddie is.
Yeah.
Mine would be Qui-Gon Jinn is Clark, and the Cousin Eddie is Jar Jar Binks.
Okay.
Oh,
all right.
All right. Keeping it in the prequel era. Okay.
So tell us why Qui-Gon would be the Clark Griswold of Star Wars.
Well, Qui-Gon just feels like he's mainly, like, he feels like he runs it all, basically. He's what in a way, if you don't count, like, how the movies were released, he basically started the whole thing, like a chain reaction, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was the Jedi who trained Obi-Wan, then he died, then Obi-Wan trained Anakin, then Obi-Wan died, then Anakin became Darth Vader, so it just, like, kept on going because Qui-Gon started it all. He's basically the one in charge. And that's what Clark is in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. It's because he's there. He's the one who gets the tree, cuts it down, top of the car, makes it too long, forgets to bring the saw.
Well, he would just have a lightsaber, you know. He could just cut that tree down, no problem. That's a great thing about being a Jedi.
I know he wouldn't need the saw this time.
Yeah. But, of course, and they have that great dinner scene in Phantom Menace as well, so we can kind of imagine what this would be like.
You deserve serious props for conjuring up that image.
At least the turkey ain't dry this time. This time it looks like they're having like breakfast.
Yeah.
And Kid Blake, what about the Jar Jar Binks cousin Eddie connection? It doesn't take much imagination to figure out where that connection comes from, but I want to hear it from you.
Basically him.
Yeah.
Jar Jar fits the character perfect. Like, Cousin Eddie's just there. He's just having a fun time, basically. And he's just chilling. You know, he goes and gets Clark's boss, ties him up, brings him through the front door. The cops show up, come busting through the windows. They got the helicopter flying around. It seems like a Jar Jar thing to do. He's just there, and chaos just happens.
Can you imagine if Jar Jar went off to grab... if Jar Jar ran off to grab Qui-Gon Jinn's boss, who would he show up with? Would that be Mace?
Yoda.
Or Yoda? Yoda would be tied up. You about ready to do some kissing? All right. I see that you have something you want to talk about Kid Blake has a film idea.
I have a movie pitch.
Oh,
or TV
okay, let's
show,
hear it.
whichever way.
Uh-huh.
Disney, you better be calling me sometime soon because it's going to make you a lot of money.
Whoa. All right. Bold.
My favorite Star Wars comic books are the Darth Vader ones. I'm pretty sure that's like a lot of people's favorites are the Darth Vader comic books. They're like, it always has like a feeling to them. You know, it feels like you're like in every TV show, movie, everything, the good guys always win. Besides in Empire Strikes Back. Empire Strikes Back, the Darth Vader put Han in carbonite, Jabba has him, Luke got his hand cut off, and all that. And it's one of the greatest Star Wars movies of all time. Probably the greatest.
It is considered that, yes.
Who wouldn't want to see a TV show or a movie about just Darth Vader after Revenge of the Sith just going crazy. Like, he just goes on missions for Palpatine, does different things, goes after the Jedi that are hiding, and then he finds the Jedi temples. We could even lean in the Rebels a little bit, show some more live action Rebels of him going after Ahsoka, finding Ahsoka. And then there's the World Between Worlds, learn more about that with Darth Vader. Probably in some way he knows. But it'd just be a really cool film or TV show to watch. You just get to see Darth Vader just do everything that you would normally see in a comic book, but you get to see it in, like, the film.
Yeah, okay.
And I feel like that would gain Disney a lot of money.
All right. Now, some might say, Blake, that what you're describing here is low-hanging fruit. This is something that is so seems so obvious. It's by far one of the most, if not the most popular, well-known characters from the entire franchise. The visual recognition alone, and then all you have to do is just hear the voice. I mean, it's so recognizable and iconic, beyond recognizable and iconic. Why not do it? You look at Rogue One, the most talked about, in fact, probably one of the reasons, certainly, that Rogue One got yes, it's the hallway scene. It's the reason that people went back over and over to see that movie. Yeah, right. Now, Rogue One is also a great movie, but I think a lot of people might not have been drawn to the theaters had they not heard about this epic scene. So here's the question, though, about something Vader is what era, what time period? I mean, the character of Vader takes place over decades. What time period would you most like to see a Vader story? Because I don't want them hopping around the timeline or anything. I want a really focused, concentrated Vader story.
I want to see it takes place between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. Like somewhere between.
That's a pretty big broad time. I want be a little tighter, be a little more specific here, if you would.
Well, when the Rebels, wait, when does Rebels take place? I thought it takes place during, like, A New Hope.
Oh, I wanted to take place between episodes 14 and episodes 15 of Star Wars Rebels. And I wanted specifically to... I mean, where can you go with a Vader story? It has to be between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. And I think, I like what Blake was saying about the world between worlds. Because we've seen...
I love the world between worlds.
Right. But we've only seen that moment when Ezra pulls Ahsoka out of that battle with Darth Vader. We've only seen that from the perspective of Ezra within the world between worlds. We've never seen what Vader dealt with when that went down. Because what happened? Did Ahsoka just simply disappear? Did Vader see Ezra emerge out of nowhere and just pull Ahsoka into oblivion? And Vader was just standing there going, whoa, what was that? And then how does Ahsoka then return? Because she clearly does return. She steps back through the portal from the world between worlds back onto Malachor. So where was Vader then? Maybe it could trigger the entire story by presenting us Vader versus Ahsoka on Malachor, as we saw it in season 2 of Rebels. And we see we experience what he experienced when Ezra pulled Ahsoka out of the battle. Now, it could have been just like a simultaneous thing, but then Vader still would have killed Ahsoka. There's no way Ahsoka would have survived that. Vader was going to kill her. I don't think she had a chance of defeating Vader in that moment. And essentially, because Vader was coming down with the killing blow when Ezra made his move. It was lights out for Ahsoka. So Vader had to have experienced something because all of a sudden the battle came to an end. And maybe that would trigger Vader to where he goes on a deep exploration into the world between worlds and does everything he can in his power to find that realm and to conquer that realm. Like, that's what he wants to do. he considers the world between worlds to be a threat because it snatched victory right out of the hands of, Darth Vader. So he would want to find out what the world between worlds is.
That'd be kind of really fun. Would be if we look at it from Vader's perspective and we find out that for Vader, she just disappeared, and maybe all that was left was like a part of her cloak or something like that, and then Vader steps on it to see where'd she go, and then we know now why he reacts the way he does when Ben Kenobi disappears. Does Vader think he went into the world between worlds?
Wow.
Well, Blake, there's a lot of support in the chat for something Darth Vader. When I say low-hanging fruit, I didn't mean that as a dig on the concept. I really meant it as a dig on Disney because it's so obvious that I think this would make a really great story. But it's got to be in the hands of the right people. That's one thing that we've learned. You can take a really cool idea, and if it's not in the hands of the right people, it's not going to turn out great. But I would love it. I would love it.
I want it to be written by the people who worked on Rebels for those certain episodes. I want it to be worked on those people, like the people who wrote it. I want them to work on it.
You want the Rebels
I feel
writers.
like then they would know. Yeah, because then they know what is going on. They wrote the world between, like they made the episode, so they probably know most about it than anyone else would. So I feel like they would have more knowledge about it.
Yeah, when you look at Star Wars in live action, you don't see outside of Filoni, you don't see a lot of those writers from Star Wars animation making the crossover. Why not? I mean, when you look at some of the Clone Wars writers and the Rebels writers, why not have some of these folks come in and take a stab at writing some of these series? The thing that has been kind of bothering me is that the way they do these series is it's like, they pick somebody like a Deborah Chow and they give her the whole show. Like it's all her show instead of having what I thought was what made Rebels and Clone Wars so effective was you had a big writer's room. Now I know they have other writers with these shows, but they certainly weren't getting. I don't think they have as deep of a bench in the writer's room on some of these shows as they did with the animated efforts.
Yeah. See,
Deborah Chow did not write those episodes of Kenobi. I mean, she just didn't write them, No,
she was the showrunner on the show. She was the helming the show.
Yeah, but I don't think she did direct all the episodes. I think she did.
Yeah, I believe so.
I can't recall. Now we know the approach they're taking with Skeleton Crew is they're having showrunners with John Watts and Christopher Ford and. But a slew of directors and writers working on the show. So it's a real group effort in that case. But, I believe the Kenobi series was written by, the final scripts were written by what? One person? And then directed by one person? I can't recall, but...
Yeah, Deborah Chow wrote them all. You had writers...
Deborah Chow wrote them all?
No, directed them all, I said.
Directed them all. Okay.
Directed them all. So you had Joby Harold. That was one of the names in there.
That's right.
Stuart Beatty,
Stu,
Andrew Stanton. So there were some, but these aren't the people that. It's not like they cut their teeth writing Rebels and Clone Wars. So where's the Gilroys and the Melchings?
And it was always George Lucas's philosophy to use animation as a way to bring in storytellers to teach them how to construct Star Wars stories.
Right.
And I never, ever, ever thought that meant exclusively for animation.
Sure.
I think George was trying to, blaze the trail and have people telling Star Wars in all different sort of mediums, but based on his knowledge and tutelage. But it appears that those who worked in animation have stayed in the realm of animation, except for Dave Filoni.
Yeah, he didn't really bring anybody with him, which is odd. It doesn't seem like.
No. I mean,
Dave.
no. Yeah, it is odd because we were begging him to bring us.
I wasn't thinking about us, but since you mentioned it, of course,
I was. I think we would be of a huge value in the writers' rooms, and just say, hey, let's we have the story group, and then we have the podcasters.
The podcast
let's
group.
float it past them. The podcasting group.
All right. Well, Blake, thanks a lot, buddy. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. We're going to get to some more calls here, but great topic. And if anybody else wants to chime in and call in and talk about your ideal Vader story, we'd love to hear it. So take care, bud.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kid Blake.
Kid Blake always sounds so disappointed when we finally have to part ways. I know he just wants to hang out with us all night. We'd love to hang out.
He's trying to overthrow the empire.
He's like foiled again. I'm not.
Yeah, he's the rebellion. And every call is the Battle of Yavin for him.
Almost got him.
He blows up the Death Star from time to time, and he did again this week. So good job, Kid Blake.
We have a first-time caller, and of course, everyone that you're hearing on this episode of RFR, they're all Patreon supporters, so we don't have to say "and Patreon supporter" here; it's implied. But Curtis, first-time caller, hello,
Curtis.
Chut, high ground, hello there.
Chut, high ground, hello there. How are you?
He ticked off both the boxes.
How's it going, guys?
Okay, good.
Yeah, I know. I like this new high ground thing. It totally sounds like a greeting if you're talking to the floor. The high ground, but other than that, I agree.
Oh, that is a dad
could be
joke.
joke for the Patreon group.
Yeah. Wow.
Speaking of, I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old girl. They could come busting into the room at any moment, so I apologize in advance for the noise. It's almost bedtime, so they're fighting it with everything they've got.
Don't worry. It'll just be like, we'll just pretend we're interviewing Kyle. With all the chaos going on in his house.
Yeah. Can you also add the sounds of many dogs barking and someone doing dishes for the entire duration of our conversation? Can you please do that?
If you wish, I can make it happen. But no, I wanted to get right into it. Skeleton Crew coming up. I had to borrow a term from Sports Talk, a bold prediction regarding Jadna Nawad, if I'm saying that correctly.
Yeah.
Yes. Jude Law's character. I was thinking, we keep getting these stories where we find out that there's like another Force user who kind of like slipped through the cracks. We've never heard of him. Kind of like Balin Skull, where'd he come from? And then you kind of find out a little bit. And I'm wondering if kind of in the style of Kanan Jarrus, using that as a name to cover up his true identity of Caleb Doom. If Jude Law might take this Jadna Nawad name to cover up his true identity, which I'm going to boldly predict could be, and prove me wrong or argue against it if you think you have arguments for it, Quinlan Voss.
Well, I'm gonna. Here's my argument for it. Okay. This is not me saying it's not a good idea. My argument is that no one ever turns out to be anybody on these shows.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm not saying it's not a good idea. I'm just saying there's absolutely no evidence for me to think that any mystery is ever going to be let's see who this character really is. I don't think we're going to get one of those moments.
How many different identities did we all try to assign to Marok in Ahsoka, and he just turned out to be a bag of hot air.
Green fart.
Yeah, that guy really amounted to a whole lot of nothing, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Well, I got to push back on this whole Quinlan Voss idea you're throwing at us.
And then I'll push
Quinlan
back more.
Voss is a species known as the Kafar, and they all have a big yellow mark running over the bridge of their nose underneath their eyes. They all have that. That's not makeup. That's a genetic thing with them.
That's not a tattoo? Okay, I wondered about that.
No, that's a deal. They all have it. And
my little points of evidence. Okay.
Yeah. Obviously, a young Quinlan had mad dreadlocks, and look at what's going on with Jadna. He's got the receding hairline.
Okay. Hey, it happens, man. We got the widow's peaks going on.
I know it
Jadna.
happens, but not to a guy with the type of hair.
Not to Quinlan Voss.
No,
But Jimmy,
not Quinlan.
But Jimmy, did you not bring up a story earlier that they wanted Jude Law to wear a wig and he said no? Maybe
this is true.
Yeah, that is true.
This is true. This is true.
All right, there's point one.
They bring the dreadlock wig out to Jude. I mean, what would you do if you were in his position? Be like,
Jude.
oh, what you want me in blackface too? What's the matter with you? No, we're not going there. We are not going
Jude Marlin.
there.
We're not appropriating any other cultures. What did you say that Quinlan was? What is his species?
Well, if I remember correctly, it's a Kiffar, Kiffar. Am I right? Am I right with that?
Yeah.
I don't recall.
Kiffar.
Kiffar.
Kiffar. As far as connecting, I do think story-wise, we're going to have to get some sort of, because we know Jod Nahwood is a Jedi. We know he's a Force user, likely a Jedi.
Do we?
I feel like that got leaked really early, and we see him doing some Force stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a misdirect.
Oh, I don't know. I think it was an unfortunate early leak. But if it is true, if it does turn out that he is a Jedi, I think they're going to have him name drop and sort of establish his connection to someone, within the canon at some point. I don't think it'll go deep. I just think that it'll be probably just a name drop or something like that.
Okay.
So, but he's, it's nice to have a character that's potentially full of mystery. And the clips that I've seen, I like that seems like he's funny, seems like he's got a little sarcasm going on, some of those qualities that sort of a lot of the Jedi don't really have. So I like what I've seen of his character so far. I think he might be a nice breath of fresh air. He doesn't seem like he's a do-gooder, He
seems to have that kind of like mischievous smirk.
Yeah.
Kind of like kind of like DJ from Last Jedi without the stutter, but like you don't know what angle he's coming at you from, and you want to trust him because he looks like he'd be really useful. I'm really excited for Jude Law's character. I think he's a great kind of foil to like these innocent kids who are looking for someone they can trust.
Yeah, he's got a friendly
to get back
face.
home, and here's like the only guy offering.
One of the things we don't, Star Wars is very literal. Darth Maul looked like the devil, and he's a bad guy, right? Jude Law is a handsome dude, and I would love to look like Jude Law. So I don't see him being anything other than an upstanding, heroic type guy. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he's not going to have some sort of a checkered past, or it might take a little bit of convincing or something like that. So I mean, obviously this show is really for them to go after an actor like Jude Law, a major Hollywood star, probably one of the bigger Hollywood stars that we've seen anchor a Star Wars live action series. When you think about it,
no doubt.
So it's got to be for a reason. So
no, it's very true what you said, because Pedro Pascal didn't reach superstardom until after he was already the Mandalorian. A lot of us never heard of Pedro Pascal prior to the Mandalorian, unless you were like a hardcore Game of Thrones fan or whatever. And in the case of Ewan McGregor, he's returning to a role. But this is really the first fresh superstar recruit Star Wars has had as far as a cast member in a streaming show. So I don't think they're going to do him wrong by making him appear to be a good guy, and then you realize he has some bad intentions. However, I do think that could be an element of his character, but his character will ultimately result to be a good guy. And as far as his Force abilities, he might be someone like the Kumail Nanjiani character from the Kenobi show, who was a scam artist posing as a Jedi or as a Force user. So there's just some funny vibes I've been getting lately about Jada Noward.
Easy for you to say.
God bless you.
All right. Hey, Curtis, thanks so much, and thanks for being a first-time caller here. Hopefully we'll hear from you again.
You didn't have anything else you wanted to say, Curtis, did you? I kind of sensed you had something else you wanted to say.
No, the only other bit I had about Quinlan Vos was I still think it's striking that they name-dropped him in Kenobi when he was looking at everyone who wrote their name on the wall. And, that seems to be foreshadowing to something, or at least planting a seed. Other than that,
true, but keep in mind that's a different era on the timeline.
Go ahead.
That's a different era on the timeline. We're dealing with 10 years after the prequels when they're talking about Quinlan Vos.
True.
This era of the timeline is Mandalorian era, so it's at least 5 to 8 years following the end of Return of the Jedi. So you're talking about a significant passage of time, and just depending on how these Kafar dudes age, well, maybe he might have aged out of being
I don't know,
formidable warrior or anybody. So
I agree on the timeline difference, but it does establish that he made it out past Order 66. So if you're going to establish that and then never have him reappear, is kind of like, what's the point? And that was the kind of name that only people who watch the cartoons or the animated shows like us would catch. So I think, who knows what Filoni's got in his back pocket with that.
Well, Quinlan was created for the comic series back in the Dark Horse era, and then he crossed over to actual animation canon via the Clone Wars show. So Quinlan's been around for a little while, and something interesting about him is there were a few times where his death was kind of telegraphed to us, especially in the Revenge of the Sith comics adaptation from Dark Horse Comics. There is a panel where Quinlan Vos is on Kashyyyk fighting with the Wookiees, and he's standing on top of a walker of some sort, and the walker gets blasted. And it appears Quinlan was dead. But canon has found a way to provide Quinlan with more lives than a cat. There are certain Star Wars characters who have that privilege. I'm thinking about Shak Ti is another one whose death has been reported many times. Well, Ahsoka manages to escape the jaws of death without actually anyone thinking she's dead. But I think our next candidate's going to be Moff Gideon. I think he's one of those characters that's going to be revealed has 9 lives.
Yeah, I think if I'm also going to be bringing Quinlan Vos to live action, I don't know that I'm going to necessarily put him, cast Jude Law as the character. I think that I think I'm going with like a Jason Momoa or somebody like that, to play a Quinlan Vos.
Dude, where do we sign the petition?
Yeah, right.
All right.
Cool, hey,
guys.
Curtis,
I
thanks, buddy.
It. Nice to bounce the idea off you.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one,
buddy. Jason Momoa, I think he would be a perfect Quinlan Vos. Why not?
Yeah, I think that's brilliant casting. Get his agent on the phone for crying out loud.
All right, let's talk to RFR VIP Peter Beiser joining us. Peter, always
hey guys,
so helpful to us in the chat. Hey, Peter, good to have you on. Good to hear your voice.
Hey, happy Thanksgiving, Jason. Happy Thanksgiving, Jimmy. I just wanted to call real quick and do a quick commercial for you guys, and just to let the folks know listening to this days in the future that you're missing out if you don't sign up for Patreon. Not only are you missing out on a show like this, but all the content that just adds so much to the experience of being a Rebel Force Radio fan. So I can't recommend more highly. I don't know what it is just to get in the door nowadays, Jimmy, but definitely do it. If you get in there, you'll hear, friendships have been made, great experiences, and just a great community. So just a quick commercial break there for you guys from somebody who's been around. I think this might be coming up 18 years that I've been listening to the show. I mean, I've been there almost since the beginning. It's been a real long time now that I'm looking back.
That is a long time.
Like if I had a kid right when I started listening, that kid's going to college now.
That is a long time. We appreciate it very much.
Yeah,
but I mean, listen, there's a lot to be positive for. All the content I think that's coming up that we're seeing between Skeleton Crew and Andor, it looks great. I'm looking forward to all the after shows with you guys. In addition to being excited for Star Wars, I'm excited to be able to chat with everybody in the room here and all the folks that regularly, join us. So I'm going to jump. There's a lot of people I know that want to talk with you guys, but I'm thankful for Rebel Force Radio, and I'm thankful for both of you guys and for Tyler and the rest of the crew for everything that you guys do. So I'm wishing you the best. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your families, and I'll see you around.
All right, Peter, thank you so much. That's really kind of you to do that. Mm-hmm. And as I say, he's not an official mod or admin in the chat, but he sure acts like one. There's two types of authority. There's moral authority and formal authority, and Peter's got moral authority in that chat room, and I love it. I love it.
Yeah. So and there's nobody nicer than Peter Beiser.
Nobody. All right, let's go with Jonathan from North Carolina. Hello, Jonathan.
Hey, y'all. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
Hey, same to you,
Jonathan.
buddy.
Mine's going to be a little bit different. I was going to talk about action figures.
Oh, let's talk about action figures. Yes.
Yes, I would. About a month or two ago, I pre-ordered. There's a new Black Series set coming out.
Yep.
In it. The Masters of Evil, which you have Thrawn, Vader, and Grievous. And so I'm a Thrawn fan. So anything with Thrawn, I will snatch up in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
But this Thrawn is the Lars sculpt, and he has, now I can't pronounce anything correctly.
Salamiri.
Y'all can correct me.
He has the Salamiri.
Yeah, I was going to say Al-Salmari.
Yep.
Yes. So he has that on him. So my thought was, is this like a hint of the future for the future stories of Thrawn? Since in the EU, the Al-Salmari, or how you pronounce it, he used those a lot for his name. Kabotha, the Jedi that was
Sabaoth, I think. I never knew how to pronounce it.
The way Timothy Zahn pronounces his name is Yoris Sabaoth. That's how he pronounces it.
Okay,
yeah, that's the first time I heard. I was at a book signing with Timothy Zahn, and he was doing a Q&A prior to signing. So everyone was gathered around him. There were like 501st costumes in the background and stuff. And he keeps talking about this Sabaoth guy. I'm like, who the hell is he talking? Oh, Sabaoth. Oh.
I don't remember no Sabaoth in that show.
But that's how he was pronouncing it.
Because I always call him Kabotha. I always call him Kabotha.
Well, Tim Zahn will probably call security and have you removed from the Q&A if you did that.
Well, my question was, because I know DC and Legos and all these other figures, they spoil things. DC very much, because I know during the Snyderverse, they showcased Lex Luthor bald before BBS came out. And I think in Justice League, they showcased Steppenwolf show up before they even showcased that Steppenwolf is going to be the main villain. So is this going to be like a precursor, you actually are going to start seeing the Al-Salmari, or however you pronounce them, in the upcoming movies? Because they did play a big role moving forward in the books, because that was the only way. I mean, Thrawn used those to protect him.
Jonathan, let me explain. Mac can talk about the canonicity possibilities of this. What I'm going to tell you about is just sort of the business reason for this pack-in here. So these are all 3 repacks. These figures have all been available prior in the Black Series. They're all 3 pretty decent figures. The General Grievous, they need to do a complete resculpt because he doesn't stand. He's also a little bit too small scale-wise. And this is the one that they repackaged in the old Clone Wars retro style. So if you didn't get a chance to get this Grievous, it's a reasonably good pickup. This is a great Vader. This is the most recent Vader, so you can't go wrong with that. the Thrawn. So they did I believe it was San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Black Series Thrawn about 7-8 years ago, I think. And it was the comic-looking version. It was, it wasn't the obviously Lars. It came with a whole bunch of Thrawn doodads and knickknacks so that you could charge a premium for it. One of them was the Salamiri. So this has been reused from a previous Thrawn release. So I wouldn't get my hopes up that this is any kind of a clue or spoiler. I'm not ruling it out. It's not impossible. But just because it's in here, any more than, seeing this version of Grievous, which is sort of this whitish, kind of Clone Wars animated style color scheme. So I'm going to say from a business toy standpoint, don't read anything into it. Mac, I don't know if you have anything you want to add in terms of just the Salamiri showing up in general in canon officially.
Well, I just think it's kind of puzzling that they're going to go with the Lars Mikkelsen version of Thrawn and add the lizard around his neck, because that is specifically from the Tim Zahn novels, the Thrawn trilogy, Heir of the Empire. So what I would do is look at the packaging. If they are marketing this as a character from Heir to the Empire, then yeah, I would say this is strictly based on the Thrawn depiction in the novels. They're just latching on to the Lars Mikkelsen image because that is the most current version of Thrawn. And if you're going to be then marketing these characters, but then now Jason's showing us the packaging on the screen, and there's no indication that this is supposed to be from any specific medium or story or anything like that. Obviously, the packaging art does feature the Lars Mikkelsen version of it, of the character. But yes, he does have that thing. And so I think Jason's right. It's probably just an attempt to include a collectability to this character because he has an accessory that was not released with the figure prior to this. But I like what you're thinking, and I see the road you're going down by looking at the Ahsoka version of Thrawn with the Timothy Zahn accoutrement. So it could, but I mean, hey, why not? I wouldn't rule it out. It's kind of a cool idea that this guy can walk around with a lizard around his neck. And the lizard naturally creates a repellent to the Force and puts you in a bubble where you're actually resistant to the Force. And the Force users around you have difficulty tapping into the Force because of the influence of this weird lizard. So...
Yeah, Jim,
maybe it's a little too out there, whatever. But
remember Robert Davi in License to Kill as the drug dealer big boss? He had that lizard crawling on his shoulder and up around his neck.
Yeah. I think that was an iguana.
Yeah.
Maybe the iguana. Maybe they can get the same iguana to play the Salamiri in future.
Guys, you're not going to believe who we got to play Salamiri in the series. All right. 3 words:
sad,
license to kill. Okay, that's all I'm going to say.
It's sad when the stunt lizard has more experience than the producers and writers of Star Wars streaming shows. That's an acolyte. That's a stab at the acolyte. But
I would love to see Ahsoka sort of have a standoff with Thrawn and a Salamiri. I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Be awesome.
Yeah. She gets ill. She has to put her hands on her knees and she starts ralphing and stuff.
It's like kryptonite. Yeah.
What is that? Yeah, it's like a kryptonite. It's very similar in nature to the kryptonite. And why did they create kryptonite for Superman? Is because Superman was impervious to everything. They had to find some weakness to provide to him. So they did with this weird rock piece of his old planet Krypton. And that gave him some bad vibes or something. And he couldn't tap into his power. the Ysalamiri is essentially the kryptonite of Star Wars. And the Jedi have proven themselves to be impervious to a lot of things, except for the lure of the dark side. So they do already have kind of a built-in kryptonite. But something that just instantly weakens them and incapacitates them, I mean, this could be it.
Could be. I love that you brought up toys, Jonathan. That's awesome. We'll talk toys all day.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yes. I can't. Yeah, I try to talk to my wife about it, and she'll just look at me like, "Ugh, this is my place for my outlet."
Not real dinner conversation, is it? So, honey, what do you think about that, Salamiri?
This does happen, but yet they want you to be sitting at the edge of your seat when they're talking about a pair of shoes they bought. So we need some kind of back and forth here, Ladies, please give us a couple of minutes to talk to you about Star Wars action figures. Please.
Yeah, just see something coming in from Big Bad Toy Store all the time. Like, what is this? I'm just going to take it to my room.
I wouldn't be surprised to hear. Now, I know Mac doesn't collect the Black Series, but I wouldn't be surprised to hear a story of him getting a phone call from Wendy. It's out of the blue saying, I'm at Walmart and they have a Thrawn figure and he's got a Salamiri on his shoulders. And Max would be like, where did Wendy pick up Salamiri? But, it's one of those.
Yeah, right.
You just never know.
Well, Wendy knows more than you think. She would never call me with a Black Series phone.
Correct.
Because she knows I'm 3 3/4 for life. Woo!
All right, Jonathan, thanks a lot, buddy. Appreciate the call. Great topic.
Gobble, gobble, gobble.
Great. Always thinking with your stomach.
Rebel Force Radio.
I can't remember the last time if we've ever had an international call. We've had to have international calls before, but we got to jump on this one here. We got Ash from the UK joining us. So we got to make time for Ash. Hey, Ash.
Hey. How's it going?
It's going great. It's late.
Good.
It's late. What
the accent checks out. You definitely are from the UK. Thank you.
Is it like 2:30 a.m. there, Ash?
Man. Yeah, it's 2:22 right now, but I'm working late. I'm tuning into you guys and I'm listening to what's going on, and I wanted to give thanks.
Oh, all right. We'll allow that.
All right, Ash, ladies and gentlemen, Ash has joined us from across the pond to give thanks. I mean, really, we're bringing two countries together by doing this because everyone knows. You guys don't celebrate Thanksgiving in England or anywhere in the UK. I mean, that's an American exclusive thing. So,
well, Canada has one, but it's kind of lame.
Welcome, Ash, to our Thanksgiving table. Please enjoy our bountiful cornucopia of friendship and food. Now to Ash.
Thanks. I can taste the turkey from here, and it tastes awesome. I mean, I would have mint sauce with any kind of roast meat. I love mint sauce, so you guys should try mint sauce with any kind of meat. And, I just wanted to give thanks to Andor because I don't think it gets enough praise. I've recently rewatched Andor Season 1, and I cannot wait for Andor Season 2. Not only because it was shot in the UK, I think the cinematography was incredible. I think it was much better second viewing as well. So I encourage anybody who has only watched the season once to rewatch it. It's that good. The story is much better second watching. It makes Rogue One better second watching. So not only Andor Season 2, I'm really, really excited for, but of course, after all the Thrawn talk, I'm also mega excited for Ahsoka Season 2 as well. So to me, at the minute, Skeleton Crew is like a bit of a side project. Like, I'll watch it, see what it's like, but for me, it's like Andor Season 2, Ahsoka Season 2. I cannot wait. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I will tell you that Andor is the type of excitement that gets me out of bed in the morning. Like, that's how excited I am for Andor season 2, even though I know how it's going to end. That's the incredible strength, I think, of this show. I want to spend more time with these characters, and I can't wait to see where the story goes. We know, obviously, like I said, where it ends, but from where we left off, the characters like Luthen, he's quickly getting up on my list of top Star Wars characters of all time. I will say this also. We were talking about, wives and dinner conversation and all that. I had great success introducing this show to my wife over the summer. She absolutely loved Andor. It's a very adult show. So if, you're looking for a good binger with the significant other, try Andor out. You might be really surprised. Even if they're not a Star Wars fan, this first season isn't overtly beat you over the head Star Warsy. Although I've heard that season 2 is a real Star Warsy.
Yeah, I've heard there's a lot more tie-in to what we know is Star Wars traditionally in season 2, which is welcome because really season 1 is Andor's emergence into the galactic conflict on a whole. So naturally, we get little by little these pieces of familiar Star Wars along the way with Andor's journey, which really took a large percentage of what we know as Star Wars to kind of, it got kind of pushed into the background a little bit because Andor himself was emerging into the universe. But now he's fully indoctrinated. He's part of Luthen's scheme officially, finally. So that means he's part of the official rebellion. So you're going to see him coming across much more familiar territory to us as Star Wars fans as he puts himself out there into the galaxy more and more, which I think is awesome. Things that Andor really succeeds at, besides storytelling that goes from place to place in succession logically, which is a rarity in Star Wars streaming shows. But also, like you say, it's shot very well, and the acting is superb in Andor. Just about every actor is just outstanding in that show. It's a level at which we don't typically see Star Wars acting. It's acting that takes itself seriously and takes us as an audience seriously. I'm really looking forward to my binge rewatch of Andor because while I have seen each episode 4 or 5 times, it was all in those weeks we were doing the after show. I never sat there and watched the entire series from episode 1 to episode 12. So I'm going to do that after Skeleton Crew wraps. I don't want to do it beforehand. I have been tempted, but I don't want to. I just want to stay focused on Skeleton Crew in the moment as it happens. And then immediately after that, mid-January, my prep for Andor Season 2 is going to kick into high gear. We'll have your traditional 3-month window between Star Wars streaming series. It has been rather traditional to have that window of 3 months between series. There was 3 months between Mandalorian Season 3 and then Ahsoka. And then there was, from the top of the year, there was this year we had, what was the first series of the year? I guess it was the animated Bad Batch.
Bad Batch, yeah.
And then we had about 3 months until Acolyte dropped. And then since the end of Acolyte, it's been about a 3-month window leading us up to the beginning of December and Skeleton Crew. So it's kind of nice to be rolling into Skeleton Crew, not feeling the pressure, the overwhelming weight of the entire Star Wars saga is resting on the shoulders of this television show. It feels more casual, and it feels more like lighthearted in nature. So I really hope the fan base will maintain that nature as well. Yeah. There won't be a lot of hatred and infighting and things like that. But as we know with Star Wars, always expect the unexpected. So with it being more of a family-oriented offering, I think that's going to benefit this particular series. And then 2025 will be the year of Andor. It really will be. And maybe if we're lucky, I think Andor is going to be really it for 2025.
I think
there's no other live series because if Ahsoka starts shooting in spring, we won't see that probably until summer
at least a year.
Fall 2026.
Yeah. Right.
They're not going to release it at the same time as the Mando show, I don't think. But again, they released Mando season 1 and The Rise of Skywalker simultaneously. So there's really no rhyme or reason to how any of this works.
Well, hey, Ash, thanks for the call, and thanks for staying up late with us over there in the UK. Mm-hmm. Hopefully we'll hear from you maybe on one of our after shows coming up looking at Skeleton Crew.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'll definitely watch Skeleton Crew, and I'll probably stay up late for you guys to see how it's going. And thanks again for everything you guys do. Every time I have a bit of a tough time, I just tune into you guys. You always make me feel better, as well as the whole RFR community. So thank you for all of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Means a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Thanks, Ash. All right, let's go to the other side of the Atlantic, and let's talk to John from New York. Hello, John.
Hey, guys. Chut.
Chut.
Hey, John.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Really appreciate you guys doing another live show. And, I had a couple of things on my mind. But first, I wanted to shout out to the last RFR Q&A that you guys had with Turtle Wars, or
yes.
Chris Turtle Wars Hagen. When I heard you say that, Jimmy, it sounded like you were announcing a wrestler coming down the rink. So, anyway, I wanted to shout out that episode. That was really great. And your last several handfuls of RFR Q&A VIPs, just stellar shows, excellent, and really helps me get through my day while I'm walking dogs. By the way, this is Pepper Spray Johnny. Jimmy, you gave me that nickname a couple months back.
Pepper Spray. PSJ, we call you. Well, I'll tell you what, man. Thank you very much. I'm glad you're enjoying the Q&As. We got the Q&As coming every week here. Just this week we did a Star Wars fan on the road with Turtle Wars. And Turtle Wars has been everywhere, meeting up with other RFR VIPs, hanging out with Daniel Logan, and checking out Star Wars conventions and museum exhibits. And he's a great guy, one of the top experts of reptiles and turtles in the country, if not the world. That's our very own Turtle Wars. He's our own crocodile hunter. And he had a lot of great stories as he walked me through all of his journeys from the past half year, all the people he's met, and all the things he's seen. So that is RFR Q&A. On the road with Turtle Wars, and it was a really fun conversation, and the video is available. All of the Q&As are available to RFR All Access tier supporters. So that's the tier you want to be on to get ad-free shows and full show video of everything we do. Not only the full show that me and Jason record every week, but full show video of RFR Q&A, full show video of RFR RPG, full show video of the Babu Freaks, and whatever else we're doing over there at patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio. So I just want to thank all of our RFR VIPs. Those are the ones who sit shotgun with me on every episode of RFR Q&A. If you want to contribute to RFR Q&A, become a VIP. That tier is also available at patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio. I'm done with the pitch. I'm exhausted. I can't pitch anymore.
All right.
No more pitch from me.
John, take it away.
Yeah. So, it was great. RFR on Patreon always gets me through a tough week. But, so a couple things I wanted to mention. I'll try to keep it concise. But a few months back when Acolyte was just about done wrapping up its run, y'all had mentioned on an episode of the main show that after Acolyte didn't do so hot, Disney pulled a lot of pulled all their products for Acolyte. They took it all out of circulation, and y'all had mentioned that, and I thought that was it was pretty interesting. But
that did turn out to be fake news. John.
That was limited in its grasp of reality. As we've seen, there's been Acolyte action figures coming out. There's Acolyte posters, T-shirts. It's somebody was just jumping.
There was a refresh, I believe, that happened on the official Disney store site. And some of that was, naturally in the sales cycle. I'm not making any excuses. It did look weird. The timing was odd, but a lot of that stuff resurfaced, came back. So I don't think there was any mass pulling. I'm glad you brought it up because it gives us an opportunity to kind of identify, that just, I think, was some people who are being very opportunistic, looking for any excuse to, stab Acolyte. Believe me, there was plenty to work with, but that was not one of them. I think that was just fake news, as I said.
Jason's taking delivery of Acolyte merchandise in packages delivered to his home almost on a daily basis at this point. So I think we're all good with it.
When you pre-order them like a year and a half ago and they finally show up, it's crazy. Oh yeah, I remember those.
Oh yeah, those Acolyte tablecloth I bought. Oh my god, the Acolyte flatware, everything for the kitchen. I got the Acolyte toaster. I got the Acolyte toaster oven. I get the Acolyte skillet. I mean everything. My whole kitchen is nothing but Acolyte. All right, go ahead, caller.
Yeah, well, I feel a little bamboozled now. I feel a little silly because it kind of shoots a hole in my in what I was gonna say. And I'll just say that I played this game. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. It's called Star Wars: The Old Republic. It's basically very World of Warcraft style MMO, just Star Wars flavored. And they actually got that. So I was going to say that they do have some Acolyte themed armor on their cash shop. So in the event that obviously that's not obviously it's a moot point now. But yeah, I was just going to be like, hey, if you're if you want to spend some cash on some Acolyte merch, it's digital, it's in game, but it's there. They got what's his face's Smiley helmet, whatever his name is, Darth Smiley helmet. That's what I'm calling him.
That's fine. Yeah, that works.
Chimera.
Yeah. Yeah. So and they got a lot of stuff on there. Another cool thing that I actually is it true though that they also didn't they pull a bunch of Cara Dune and Gina Carano stuff when her controversy happened?
They did.
Isn't that true? Because
that they did do, but I don't know what kind of knee-jerk reaction that was because Cara Dune has not been eliminated from Star Wars merchandising. As a matter of fact, just recently there was a visual encyclopedia released, and Cara Dune has a couple of pages in that, complete with photography of Gina Carano. So it doesn't appear as if the character is being erased from existence. Just the show Rangers of the New Republic was erased from existence along with Gina Carano's career. So that's all being discussed in the courts these days. We'll learn much more next year when that whole scene goes to trial. And I expect to be entirely entertained by the entire event. So the Gina Carano. We might have to go court TV here. On
Mac, it's going to be it's going to take you back to your OJ days in the 90s. That's we're going to have to.
I'll tell you, I was working in radio back then, and there was nothing more entertaining to be covering than the OJ Simpson trial back in the day. That was a lot of fun. So bring on the Gina Carano versus Disney.
Yeah, right. That'll be something.
I had one more thought. Oh man, no, it's your show, but I'm just lucky. I'm just lucky to be here. And I don't know if you guys know how much your fan base really respects you and appreciates the time that you guys spend with us. I mean, it's just you guys don't have to do this, but You do it out of the kindness of your heart. And also, yeah, I'm thankful too. I'm very thankful for Rebel Force Radio.
Thank you.
But before I let you guys go, I wanted to I actually had a question for you guys, and I asked Tyler the same thing. So, do you guys think that if Disney and Lucasfilm didn't put their shows behind the subscription iron curtain, so to speak, the paywall, if they put their shows on network TV and made it a little bit more accessible, do you think that they'd get more eyeballs on their shows? Because I feel
absolutely.
I mean, I don't know. If I was working at Lucasfilm and Disney, I'd be like, why aren't we putting this on TV, on actual TV? Because it's just, I feel like the streaming services, they gave the impression of being so accessible back in the day, back in the late 2000s, early 2010s. But as time has gone on, streaming shows feel like they've gotten less and less accessible. And not only that, now you've got Netflix, which has done the password crackdown, and Disney Plus is, right behind them, and is actually, I've heard that they're going to be doing a password crackdown pretty soon too.
Yeah.
And I feel like they may, they're like, oh, our shows aren't doing too hot. Well, you guys don't really make them super accessible. I mean, forget about all the controversy with the directors and the bull crap that they like to say, and just the poor writing for some of these shows. I mean, it's like they keep it out of reach for people that would probably watch this
I got to tell you, John, that is something I hadn't really thought about it until you bring it up. There is definitely, I mean, there's a paywall here, and that is something that Star Wars has, and a lot of properties haven't really had to deal with. There was always the cost of a movie ticket, but how many kids watched it on TV every year, watched the films for free? There is something to be said. The one thing I will say is that, the whole business model, I really believe, and there's a lot smarter people than me working on this, but I don't think that Hollywood has even come close to figuring out a replacement of the traditional entertainment business model where you have films come out in the theater and then they get released to home video and then they get put on cable and then they get put on network television. There was a reliability there and a predictability there that I think really benefited the industry. I think they're lying if they say they figured it out. I don't think they have figured it out. And I think you bring up a really interesting question is about the accessibility of this content. Syndication was a huge, there'd be no Star Trek if there was no syndication. There'd be no Star Trek movies. There'd be no Star Trek The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, none of that. Star Trek would have been a three-season cult classic, and that would be it if it wasn't for syndication. Just that business model alone. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, the amount of eyeballs, the amount of people who are devoting their time to network TV these days has drastically shrunk compared to the amount of time people spend watching streaming programming. I mean, just look at the top show currently would be Sunday Night Football, and that has about 20 million eyeballs on it each week. Disney Plus has 153 million subscribers estimated, and that's internationally too. So it's hard to figure out really what the best approach is these days. But without a question, I think streaming is king. And while it might not be as accessible to, everyone in the general public, there are a lot of eyeballs watching streaming television these days. And the streaming numbers blow network numbers out of the water. And that's a fact. So I think Hollywood is really struggling with trying to find the right solution as well. Because what you guys were just talking about, they're all obvious benefits to having things airing on network television. Especially like if you get sick of Star Wars or Disney Plus and you just out and out cancel it, there's a good chance, though, you'll never venture back into it. There won't be anything there pulling you in. With network TV, all you have to do is turn it on and just give it a shot, and it doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah, the other thing about syndication is these series have, 7, 8 episodes. Like, imagine that looping. It's not going to work, back in the day when you had 22, 23 episodes per season. It was very, very, very different. And Mac's absolutely right as far as comparing the numbers. The thing that I don't think they've quite figured out is once you have that initial push and you're promoting the new thing that's going on your streaming platform, discoverability becomes more and more challenging because unless you're, if you're a Star Wars fan, you're going to go to the Star Wars tab on the Disney Plus website and you're going to binge all of it. You're going to be exposed to it. But outside of that, we definitely live in a very curated world where we curate our own news, we curate our own entertainment. So that serendipitous finding something is like you might with syndication is not there. So that's I think going to be a challenge. Great question, John.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, appreciate it, buddy.
John.
Thank you very much. Great call. Great question. Let's talk to another RFR VIP, Jeremy from Texas. Hey, Jeremy.
Fellas, how are you doing? You were my brothers, right? No? Are we trying new catchphrases? Does that work? I don't know.
You just got to go fish
with brothers. Hey, everybody, you were my brothers. Yeah, I don't know.
I was gonna go chut, but I wasn't feeling the chut. I'm trying to let one rip. Anyway, that's still like a dud. How are y'all doing?
Doing great. Feeling very thankful.
First off, so that's where I want to start. First off, Pete said everything I was thinking about saying too when he called earlier about the gratitude. So I won't belabor the point, but I will say I'm so thankful for RFR and for you guys. And I would encourage, since this is Patreon listeners, just everybody commit to asking one friend, exposing them to RFR on Patreon. Just everybody find one person and try to, get some more growth. These guys deserve it. So that was my first sort of point.
Everyone, nice. You tell two friends, and then they'll tell two friends, and so on, and so on, so on.
Right. It's like Amway.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, okay. All right. So here's what I'll say. I have what I originally called for and then some notes that I took. So I'll start with this one. About Gina Carano and the OJ trial. If Gina Carano was OJ and we see her flying down the road in a white Bronco, who is her alcoholic?
Who's her alcoholic? Well, you know what? Since the great Carl Weathers has passed on, it can't be him. Now, he would have been my pick. That he might have driven her down the highway. I don't know. Bill Burr? Maybe Bill Burr? Geez, Gina.
No, there's only one answer. There's only one answer. And that is...
Oh, rip it.
Kidster. I mean, come on. And it has to be Kid Kidster, too. Not the weird adult
with
version.
The short
the
round
bald guy.
blocks on the gas pedals.
Hey, how about short round? I actually like short round in this situation. Yeah. Hang on, doll. He punches it.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's going to be something. That's something we can all look forward to in 2025. RFR's coverage of the Gina Carano trial.
Yes. Round the clock.
So, the next note that I made is when you guys were talking about Turtle Wars and his exploits, I had this thought in my head that he's kind of the Hunter S. Thompson of RFR. He's kind of like Gonzo RFR. He's all over.
Wow. I think some of his consumption resembles Hunter S. Thompson's as well. Yeah. Interesting. I like it.
All right. So my third point is for Jason. Tell me you watched the Browns game. Holy cow. I'm still high.
I did watch the Browns game. It was like It reminded me of watching football when I was a kid, where it was snowing and
I know
that was great. That was great with the snow. It
was very
awesome
cool.
Visuals.
I would say I think we deserved the win. We've endured quite a bit. We'll see what happens. But
plus, you beat your rivals, Pittsburgh. It was, really a momentous thing. They did play Pittsburgh, right? That's,
yes.
Am I remember? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But,
and the Ravens.
The highlights were awesome.
Now, I have two more things. My initial question was sort of, how are you guys anticipating reaction for the Skeleton Crew? I know I find myself thinking about that, like reaction and fandom online seemed to get to a really weird place with the Acolyte. It was kind of sort of like building to it. And I'm trying to feel optimistic that it can recover and just not be so kind of gross.
I think
that adversarial.
Yeah, I think that I'll go ahead and I'll make this prediction, knowing that I obviously could be wrong, but I'm going to say that I think that people are going to say that it's a breath of fresh air, that it is something very new, very exciting, and it's going to unify, I think, a big chunk of the fan base.
Yeah, I do great. Too. I think it's going to be coming from a more of a innocent place as far as its approach to Star Wars. And I don't think it's going to be bogged down with a lot of the things that were upsetting people who watch The Acolyte. I mean, maybe that little elephant kid is going to be wanting to be referred to as they, and that'll send everyone off the deep end. But other than that, I think that we're going to be in for a more Disney experience than we may have experienced with Star Wars in the
Jim.
past.
Amblin.
Oh, I forgot which studio it was supposed to be. That's right. It's going to be more like Schindler's List. Than Goonies. Oh, that's right. Goonies.
Hey, Jimmy. Oh, my gosh. Jimmy, you might want to expect a voicemail tomorrow from RFR HR. You've hit blackface. You've hit pronouns. I mean, what's next?
That's right. God, I've had a real run tonight. Well, here's the truth of the matter is I am the head of the RFR HR department, so we're all screwed. We're all in deep trouble,
Oh, man.
It's like,
All right.
But let me just be clear. I'm not bashing anyone or bashing anything. I'm just pointing out some of the little things that trigger certain segments of fandom and the absurdity about it.
All right, here's my last point. You guys were talking towards the end of that last call about streaming being king, and how Hollywood sort of struggles with the model. I think there's two exceptions. I think two shows have figured it out, and I think Disney would do wise to replicate it. But the first one was Yellowstone. When Yellowstone came out, it was on the regular Paramount network. I mean, you could access it, and even after Yellowstone blew up, the deal was always current seasons will be free, available to everybody, and on TV, and then completed seasons can be found, on the Paramount Plus network. So I think that's one exception. The second exception is sort of a little bit looser, but it's Cobra Kai. I remember watching Cobra Kai right when it came out on YouTube, and nobody was watching it.
Yeah.
And it was like it had this way where people had access to it, and if the content's good, they have access to it, and then they can put the archive behind a paywall. And I think Disney and some of these other networks, they just lack confidence in their original content, or in their content. But I don't think that model forces you to think about it.
I don't think it's about confidence. In the product necessarily. I think it's a confidence in the model. That's an interesting idea where you could take the initial debuts of the shows or the current series and make them available to anybody that wants to download the Disney Plus app. But if you want to go back and watch previous seasons, or if you want to go back and watch it after it's already had its run, that's a nice hybrid approach. And my mom got suckered into she's all into the whole Yellowstone verse. So I've been paying those Paramount Plus bills for a couple of years now.
Well, tell your aunt that I live in the same town as Taylor Sheridan. So if she ever wants pictures, I just sent.
Oh no, that's my mom. My mom. Jeez, my mom's gonna. Yeah, she'll be moving in next door. If she finds that out.
Telling you, man.
But that's an interesting idea. Because think about it. Okay, you're at the water cooler, right? And you're telling your friend who's sort of a casual Star Wars fan, hey, I think you'd really like this this Andor show, and it's season 2 just started this week. All you got to do is just download the Disney Plus app, on your iPad or on your TV, and you can watch it. It's not going to cost you anything. That's an interesting idea. Yeah. That might help with the growth. But again, they got a lot of really smart people sitting around clicking on calculators, figuring this stuff out. And when you're talking about the money that they're spending on the production of what did we find out Acolyte cost? It was more than some of the Star Wars films. Insane costs.
230 to 250 million for that season.
Outrageous.
Are you talking about the Acolyte?
Yeah.
Are you talking about for the Acolyte?
Yeah, the Acolyte costs. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what's crazy, where the hell did it go? There was the ships looked a little wonky, and they did have a fair amount.
Where'd they spend the money? That's a great question. Where was the money spent?
And they had designated sets. You could actually tell it was a set, like a sitcom at some points, and then practical effects. Where did it go?
Where did the money go? That is a good question, because you don't see it necessarily. I just love you guys. I'll stay on all night. So here's the deal. I think when I see that I had a drink a minute ago, but so when on
Me too.
the very last Skeleton Crew trailer, it blew my mind. I'm all in. Mm-hmm. I'm ready to get hurt. I'm ready to get heartbroken. That last trailer had every single thing I look for in sci-fi. The ships were looking great. Robots were looking great. And the one thing I think they did really cool, if I'm not mistaken, but when they communicated that the Jude Law character is a Force user, they did it in a way to where it's not fake. He's using the Force. You could clearly tell. It wasn't like a gimmick or anything like that. I like how much they've given us with Jude Law's character so far. It's got me really excited to see how he fleshes out. And I also think he strikes me as one of those characters who, when the show's all said and done, he initiates the whole thing. It's a grand plan that he initiates from the very beginning, and he actually needs these kids because they're the only ones that can solve this problem. And so I have a feeling they might go that way, and if they do it well, I'll be super happy about it. But my expectations are crazy high, out of my mind. So
your expectations should be high in terms of the entertainment and the fun value. That's what I hope that your expectations are high, because I think it's going to be entertaining. I think it's going to be really fun. Just like your phone call, Jeremy. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. Great call.
Hey, I want to follow up on something Jeremy was talking about. Where did that money go? 230 to 250 million to produce The Acolyte?
Yeah.
Where did that money go? So it got me thinking. And that's never a good thing. But it got me thinking, when George Lucas brought back the Star Wars franchise with The Phantom Menace in 1999, what did he pay to create that? Because to do so, he was developing groundbreaking filmmaking technology, doing things with CGI that had never been done before. When he was explaining his vision for episode 1 to his ILM visual effects talent, the best in the world at the time, and still to this day. I mean, ILM, geez, all of the groundbreaking effects they've done and everything. When he was explaining his vision to them, the guys were sitting there going, I don't know how we're going to do this. The technology doesn't exist. They had to build the technology. So George dropped $115 million to create the Phantom Menace. And so you might be saying, well, that's in 1990s dollars. So I did the math. And $115 million in 2024, the value would be $215 million. It's basically doubled, and via the inflation. So if $115 million was needed to create the Phantom Menace today, it would have cost $215 million. Where did that money go? Because there was no groundbreaking technology developed for the Acolyte.
Don't forget that the Phantom Menace had about a $50 million marketing budget as well. So they had that, whereas the Disney Plus, so much of the marketing is done sort of internally in their internal channels, the Star Wars social media channels, websites within the app itself, things like that. So, George, so basically what you're saying is George innovated to such a huge degree that he really changed the future of filmmaking twice with The Phantom Menace. And all that was about, say, the equivalent of about $300 million when you consider marketing. And the Acolyte cost $250 million. And what did it get? It got, 8 episodes? 8 35, 45-minute episodes? And it was a one and done? I mean, that's an outrageous abuse of money. Really, when you think about it. I think it's terribly irresponsible.
No, I don't think it ended up on the screen. I don't see it. It's just not there. So I don't know what they're spending money on, but I heard Kathy Kennedy bought a new home in Bel Air. So
is that right? Oh, good for her. I think Mac just made that up, but we'll
I did.
See.
I did just make that up.
People
that
like,
is not
Jimmy
a fact.
Mac said that Kathleen Kennedy bought a new house. All right, here's Eric from Phoenix.
Hey, guys.
Wowie, wow. So tell us about all of this debauchery that happened at the Galloping Ghost and throughout that weekend. I understand you had a nice candlelit dinner with our own Tyler Page.
Yeah.
I added the candlelight, but
I did.
Yeah.
There was no candlelight, and we did not share any fruit.
There was no fruit sharing.
There was no fruit shared. I just appreciate Tyler. He was available on Friday night, and I said, "Hey, man, I'd love to grab dinner with you." And he said, "Sure." And so we hung out. We shut down Jimmy Mac's downtown, and we had a great time. And it was just great to catch up. Obviously I hadn't seen him since Bristol, and just wanted an opportunity to say thank you to him. And he's just a great guy, and it was fun to get to know him a little bit more. Obviously, when you have dinner with somebody, you get a chance to get to know somebody. So great time on Friday, and then Saturday night, obviously a ton of fun at the Galloping Ghost and afterwards. And Jimmy was a great host, and ton of people there from all over the place, which was just crazy. And if you like arcade games at all from the 70s and 80s, I mean, the Galloping Ghost, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, you can't explain it until you've been there, because there's just so many games. I had to keep going up to the guy at the front desk and saying, "Okay, now tell me where this game is at," because I've been walking around for 15 minutes and I got lost and I can't find it. So it was a good time. So thanks, Jimmy, and everybody that was there. Billy Mack showed up, and I got a chance to connect with him. I haven't talked to him for a couple of years. I can't remember if he was at the Bash in 22 or not. So it might have been a Lulu. I just can't remember the last time I talked to him.
I think it was a Lulu.
Billy Mack.
It was probably the last time.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was a fun time. But it was fun to get caught up with Billy and talking about his, collections and the stuff that he's fixing up, and then he's showing me all this stuff that he's, things.
He's
that
quite
he
the
bought
vintage toy restorer these days. Billy Mack really doing some great stuff there.
He's like the guy. Yeah, he's like the guy, the guy from Toy Story that comes in and fix up Woody in Toy Story 2. That's Billy Mack. Kind of what he does.
Oh man, just with more hair, but it's very close.
Yeah, a lot more hair. Not quite as old. So it was a great time. Great time.
Yeah, the funny thing is that character was voiced by Wayne Knight in Toy Story 2, and when they do the life story of Billy Mack on And it would probably be a Lifetime or Hallmark Network production. Billy will also be played by Wayne Knight, so get ready for that. It's currently in pre-production now, and it might end up in developmental hell forever. But Jason, I shared with you a little slideshow from the old Galloping Ghost Arcade.
I see that. I'm pulling this up right now. Let's see. Y'all should be seeing this in just a minute as I push this live. All right, there we go. Yeah.
So these are the boys all gathered together. This was the late nights portion of the shebang there at the Galloping Ghost. We like I said, we hit the drinking establishments on Ogden Avenue. Here's some of the gang. This is hardly a complete shot. There were so many of us there. But this is a bunch of guys there hanging around at the arcade. As you can see, there we are back at the bar. Jedi Yogi John Marcoux showed up. And that's
great.
A picture with him from Eric from Phoenix. This is from Eric's own photo album here, I got to say. There's a picture of Outside the Ghost. And there I am playing Qbert with Tyler Page looking over my shoulder, trying to pick up a few tips from the master. It's just an aisle at the Ghost. As you can see, it's just a massive place filled with all kind of great vintage video games. 1942, 1943, Gorf. Who can ever forget Gorf? Cloak and Dagger from Atari. Oh, here's a shot from, this is myself, Eric from Phoenix, and Tyler Page hanging out in my Star Wars collection. This is the RFR Studios, Chicago Studios, and the boys are hanging out there. I promise you guys on Patreon, I do plan on a video series of my entire collection, but here's a little taste for you right here. And there I am playing Galaga. I kind of had a breakthrough with Galaga last weekend. I'm very happy to
breakthrough. Better than a breakdown.
A breakthrough. I discovered an element of my Galaga game, which has been flawed for the past 40 years that this game has existed. I cracked a code. And so I'm very pleased with that. I'm going to be going back to the Ghost to test my my newfound knowledge very soon. As you can see, the Ghost has a lot of Star Wars video games. This is a very rare Sega Star Wars game from 1994, only released in Japan. The Galloping Ghost is the only place in the country where you can go play this game. So the only existing edition of the Sega Star Wars game is playable at the Galloping Ghost Arcade in Brookfield, Illinois. There's the Galaga. There's more shots of the arcade. Oh, they have the great old vintage 1983 Atari Return of the Jedi stand-up cabinet, the old Atari Vector Graphics game, and there's Billy Mack playing Frogger. What else do we have here? Oh, there's me, Billy, and that's Paul from Detroit. He made the trip all the way down from Detroit to hang out with us this weekend. And he also left his bag at the hotel he stayed at, and I went and picked it up and shipped it to him today. So, and the lady wouldn't give me his bag. When I said, my friend Paul was staying here, and he left his bag. And she's like, oh, yeah, we got it. I said, well, I'm his friend. He wants me to ship it to him. She wouldn't give me the bag without showing his photo ID. I said, how do you think I know he left his bag here without actually being a friend of his?
This is some little side hustle you do. You go up to random places and say, my friend left his bag here.
Right. And I just dropped the name Paul to see if that will actually generate a random Paul bag that was left behind. I mean, come on, what are the odds? This is a Q beer. Was a Qbert, I guess it's a Qbert beer. That's a little illustration of that. Okay, now I have to discuss this moment right here. This is me and my buddy Anthony. We're enjoying a pizza, and they were mad. They were saying that I was flashing the Star Trek Spock sign in this photo.
Hey, he's mad at me about my little bosun's whistle, and look at him flashing this as if no one's going to notice. Yeah, live long and prosper, drink long, and well, you know the rest.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, but that was just because this was like a little mini sifter, and so just that's how my hand naturally wrapped, my fingers naturally wrapped around this thing. But they're all like, "Oh, that's like the Spock V sign," you know. And I'm like, "No, it's not." But they called me out on it. Took a photo just to embarrass me. And what else do we have here? Rich Brendel made the trip from Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. There he is playing Asteroids, and you see a Billy Mack in the background, hunched over the old Battle Zone game, which Billy is a junkie for, and that's it. That's everything. So that's whole awesome. The whole deal there, and that was the trip. And we got a blank screen now.
Oh, here we
there
are.
it is.
No, we're back.
God,
We're back.
God,
there
you
you
go. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Very
All
good.
right.
But yeah, man, we had a great time. And Eric from Phoenix, you were our guest of honor, and we hope it was worth the trip.
Oh, yeah, it was awesome. And just hearing Jimmy having to go to a hotel, I can just see your reaction when you walked in and they wanted Paul's ID. I mean, that's just fantastic. Yeah. Hey, my question for you guys is, from a 2024 perspective, Star Wars related, what are you most thankful for from a Star Wars perspective in 2024?
That's a good one.
What did
just as a fan or as a podcaster or
doesn't matter. However,
I think we should just stick to like general
whatever
fandom
comes to
stuff.
the top of your head.
What's like a top moment in 2024 for Star Wars? Boy, yikes! It's been a great year for RFR. This I know, and I'm looking forward to our year-end wrap-up that we'll be doing next month, where we'll just go back through the calendar and recap all of the great events and great podcasts and everything that RFR was associated with. For me as a Star Wars fan, I sure did relish the opportunity to go back to Galaxy's Edge with my family back in April. It was really good to go back to the Disney parks. I hadn't been with my family to any Disney parks in 5 years. And it's always fun to take the note of the enthusiasm my family has for Star Wars when we make those vacations to the Disney parks and we go to Galaxy's Edge and ride on Star Tours and stuff. I sit back and say to myself, oh my God, for once I feel like I'm not the only Star Wars fan in this family. These people are showing legitimate enthusiasm and passion for Star Wars. And that's when we're all together at the Disney parks at Galaxy's Edge, drinking blue milk with my boys and just cutting up and taking photos and going on the rides, hanging out in the cantina, which is, I know for a fact, is Jason Swank's favorite all-time Disney attraction.
It's the best ride.
The cantina.
It's the best ride I've ever been on. Really. It's just so real.
Yeah, it's the only one. It's the only one I could get Jason on multiple times. The cantina ride.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, it's like that's a very personal thing to say. I thought, as far as the year in general goes, it was great to get together with RFR listeners in May at Bristol for May the 4th from Bristol, Connecticut, RFR Live. That was a great one. Also, other podcast highlights I have. Some of the interviews we did this year. I really enjoyed talking to Carrie Fisher's brother, Todd. I was really into his
so
book.
much fun. Yeah, so much fun.
And I just felt more connected to Carrie in that moment. And we all have had our own individual personal relationships with Princess Leia as Star Wars fans. And just to get to know Carrie's brother a little bit, I thought was a real privilege for us here at RFR. Not to mention Diana Lee Inosanto, Katie Sackhoff, D. Bradley Baker, meeting up finally face-to-face in Bristol with all the VIPs. It was just really a great year that just keeps giving. Even the Acolyte after shows, having the anticipation of fresh Star Wars dropping on us every week. Same with the Bad Batch, and I assume same with the upcoming Skeleton Crew. I think it's been a good year for Star Wars.
Yeah, for me, I think the highlight as far as new content coming out was definitely Bad Batch. I thought Bad Batch was a fantastic climax to that series. I thought that it didn't overstay its welcome. It was 3 seasons and out, and there was just something I really enjoyed about those after shows. It lent itself to some really, really good conversation, and nobody was wrapped around the axle of politics or any of the other baggage that they kind of brought into some of the other conversations with. And we keep that down to a minimum pretty well here at Rebel Force Radio. But it's there. It's sort of an undercurrent. And Bad Batch was, I think, just there was a purity about it. And I think a great send off to those characters. So I think as far as new Star Wars content, that was my highlight. And, just the after shows in general. I love doing these live shows. As a kid, I was just absolutely in love with the whole idea of talk radio. So being able to sort of live out my fantasies, doing sort of the 2024 equivalent of talk radio is always a thrill for me. So I really am appreciative of all the listeners and Jimmy and everybody else that helps me live out those fantasies.
What about you, Eric from Phoenix?
That's awesome.
I mean, what about you? What's your answer to your own question?
Yeah, my answer is very easy, guys, and it's Rebel Force Radio, and it's you two guys, and it's what you've created, and been very fortunate that I've had the opportunity to meet a bunch of people that are fans of RFR, and you guys mentioned Bristol this year. Just a ton of fun. Andrew and I just had so much fun meeting all the people that were there, and especially Chris Hagan and Joe Dallas and Matt Rashid and Peter Beiser and Scott St. Louis. And we become friends and get a chance. We do. Scott is our social coordinator, and he gets up some Zoom meetings. And in fact, we had Life Day. Last Sunday was officially Life Day, and it was just so much fun. And, whether the shows are great or the shows are partly cloudy, you guys make it a ton of fun, and it's just a great group of people. And you go back to this last weekend. I mean, I had the best time with Jimmy and Tyler and everybody that was there, and none of us were the same people. None of us came from the same background, and none of us had the exact same perspective on everything, but it was an absolute blast because you guys have created something where you just got these great people that are part of the community, and that makes it a ton of fun. And I think it's special, and I appreciate what you guys do, and just want to say thank you.
All right. Well, there you go. That's what Thanksgiving's all about, right? And we are very grateful for you, Eric from Phoenix. You and your wife, Andrea, are great supporters of RFR, along with all of our Patreon supporters and our VIPs. And you, sir, are certainly one of them.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate it, buddy. Yep. All right. And with that, I think that's a wrap. Still a couple of calls we didn't quite get to, but got to wrap it up at some point. So apologies to those that didn't get through. Thank you so much, everybody that called in. Huge thanks to our call screener, Tyler Page. Thank you, Tyler. You are, I want to say an unsung hero, but we sing a lot. We sing a lot about Tyler Page. So you're a well-sung hero, but we love you. We love your humility, and we love your dedication.
You're an unsung hero with lyrics. So wrap your head around that.
Yeah, I'm going to spend all night doing that.
But Tyler, Eric raised an interesting question. Looking back at the year that was 2024 in Star Wars, anything, and your adventures with us here on the podcast, anything jump out at you looking back at the last 12 months?
It feels a little preemptive to do a That's for 2024 because we got Skeleton Crew.
We do have time. So we'll frame this as, what are you most thankful for so far?
Okay. Yeah.
How's that?
The Bristol experience was very fun. I think Bristol was it was between Bristol and cruising the Fan Expo floor with Jimmy and his boys and Chris Sorrentino, Baby Belushi, and all the other hooligans who showed up with us. So, those two memories really stick out for me this year. But yeah, I mean, there's going to be plenty more.
All right. Well, we'll definitely be checking in, as you alluded. It's a little premature to talk about what was the biggest hit as far as your fandom is concerned for the year 2024. It's not over yet. We're going to have quite a bit of Skeleton Crew to go through before we get to the end. And, of course, we'll be doing a retrospective, the 2024 year in review later on here. But I'll tell you, one of the things I'm most thankful for is you, Tyler. I really do appreciate your efforts as our official call screener and program observer. You make doing these live streams so much more fun and enjoyable for us. So thank you very much for taking the time. Tyler doesn't need to be here, folks. Okay? Tyler's a very successful guy. He's not doing this for the shekels. Okay? He absolutely doesn't need it. But he's here every time we're doing these live streams, and I'm very humbled by it, and I'm very thankful. So thank you, Tyler.
I love being here. Wouldn't be anywhere else. So thank you.
All right, buddy. Thank you very much. All right. Well, thank you all for hanging out with us on this very special Thanksgiving episode of Rebel Force Radio. Like I say, it's a tradition. We like to give thanks to our listeners, and in particular our Patreon supporters. So thank you all for hanging out with us this week. If you want more Rebel Force Radio in your life, a great way to do that is to go over to rebelforceradio.com and click on the Patreon banner, and there you'll be transported right through the Force to the Patreon selection, where you can click which is the best opportunity for you, what fits your budget, what fits your lifestyle. But as Mac is fond of saying, a buck gets you in the door and a buck gets you to listening to exclusive podcasts you can't find anywhere else, including some of the shows that were mentioned earlier in the program, including RFR RPG, the Babu Freaks, the Q&A. They've just kind of created their own thing right there in Rebel Force Radio on Patreon without the benefit of being out there in the wild. It's really incredible what's been going on, and I'm certainly grateful for that. Grateful for Mac for creating that sort of podcast ecosystem within the podcast ecosystem. It's crazy. We will be back here next week, as we talked about, on Tuesday, December 3rd, with our very first RFR after show live stream, looking at the very first 2 episodes of Skeleton Crew. This is something very, very different. I feel like I'm going in. I'm kind of glad for Lucasfilm's lackluster promotion of this show, because I don't feel like I know too much necessarily. Although I will say there was a really nice little trailer during the Monday Night Football game last night as we record this show live, it just had enough different footage, or it was arranged in a different enough way that I thought, oh, this looks cool. I'm excited, so I'm in.
Yeah, I definitely noticed a lot of the advertising hype kicked in full gear with Sunday football, and carrying on throughout the week. Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football. Just watch the games and you'll get a taste of the Skeleton Crew. But I think they're starting to really hit it hard now. and trying to raise awareness in this great show that's going to be dropping at a perfect time of the year for families to get together and be entertained by Star Wars. So hopefully moms and dads, brothers and sisters everywhere are going to be tuning into this show. And fingers crossed we get a smash hit out of Star Wars, because we need one. We need one. The batting average has dipped a little bit, and we need to get above an acceptable percentage to be on the major league field. And Skeleton Crew might just be that sleeper hit that will deliver. So I'm all on board with Skeleton Crew. And if it blows, we'll talk about it as well. But, I try to take in all of the lore as it's being given to us. And then when it all is said and done with, we'll deliver our final verdict, just like we had to do with the old Acolyte, which was, they're always enjoyable in the moment to me. But what kind of legs do these new entries into the Star Wars mythology have? What kind of strength do they have to live on with a decent shelf life? Are they going to just come and go like the Acolyte did? Or will we get some sustaining hits like we had with the Mandalorian and Andor? We'll see. The Andor thing, I think, is also going to surprise people. Mm-hmm. I think it's picked up a lot of fans since it debuted via good word of mouth, quality reviews, and people being a little more accepting of the Tony Gilroy take on the Star Wars universe. So I think there's going to be many more participants with us when we're doing our Andor after shows compared to season 1. But Skeleton Crew remains to be a mystery. Like I said, fingers crossed for a sleeper hit from Disney Lucasfilm this December.
Indeed. All right, we will be back here next week with our first look at Skeleton Crew, the first 2 episodes. If you're lucky enough to get those tickets for the theatrical release, good on you. As Max said, you'll be seeing it maybe an hour before the rest on Disney+, but we'll be here for it next Tuesday. That would be the originally scheduled drop date for the series, December 3rd. So looking forward to that and hanging out with you a lot more. All right. Again, thanks to Tyler Page and all of our Patreon supporters for this very special episode. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Make it a healthy and a happy and a safe one. And we'll see you next time here on Rebel Force Radio. So for RFR, I'm Jason.
I'm Jimmy Mack.
And remember,
the Force will be with you, always.